The other thing I was
Good
going to
morning.
ask you, so
There you are.
if this
We were worried about you.
Thought we'd lost you.
there be like
Didn't work this morning. I thought about it.
Get it. 1 day pass.
You can put more money on it.
Vote it.
Reload it, put money on it.
That's good. Yeah, I got money on that.
Yeah, you do.
You are not my responsibility.
I know that. I know that. You passed me off.
There you go. I'll tell you how to get rid of it.
Thank you for your help.
Hey, I did not lose Mr. Foltz last night.
Does the thing read your
Good.
watch?
Yeah, that was great. That was great. That was great. Well, good morning.
Money.
Welcome to everybody. It's the first time we've had a meeting where all the people have sunglasses on the head table, but if you were at the head table, you would understand why we have sunglasses on.
Aggressive thing.
And in my case, I've got a problem with one of my eyes that had surgery on it. My doctor would absolutely kill me if he saw me without these on, with this right in my face, so I apologize. I'm calling this meeting back in the open meeting from recess from yesterday, the workshop meeting, and we will conclude that and then move to the action meeting later on. Our first item on the agenda this morning is item number 3. It's Maintenance and Operations Comprehensive Review Briefing from Mr. Kevin Gregg.
Mr. Secretary, members of the board, good to see you this morning. Today, I'm going to give an update on their comprehensive plan that the CTB approved back in 2019. That was a cumulative effort of several years of seeing what was best value for our pavements and our bridges, where we could be more efficient. And so for those of you that weren't here then, we're going to be talking about our pavements, structures. We're going to be talking about some targets for routine maintenance and special structures. And I'm just going to be giving you an update on where we are based on those targets that were set back in 2019. So on our pavements, the process, just for a quick review, the process that we have is we go out and we review all of our pavements every year. All the interstates, all the primaries. We do 20% of the secondaries every year. And this year, we did all of the locality roads, all of the primary extensions and arterials, and all of the locality roads. So that's how we know the condition of the roads based on that annual pavement review. Once we do that, our pavement engineers come back and they come up with a critical condition index based on that review, and come up with a sufficiency percentage, which you'll see in these targets. That sufficiency percentage is a percentage of lane miles with a critical condition index of greater than or less than 60. And
Greater than or equal to.
Greater than or equal to 60, yes, sir. My mistake. So you can see if you can see the presentation in front of you, you can see where the 60 is, and some of what the roads may look like, and some of the different CCI conditions that we review. So that's a quick review of where we are with our pavements. These are the targets that you approved in 2019. Interstates are 82%. Matter of fact, all of our high-volume roadways are at 82%. Nothing less than 35 on our interstates, and the lower volumes on the primaries at 75%, and the lower volumes on our secondaries at 60%. So based on these targets that you approved, then we're going to look at where we are in relation to those targets. So on this graph, you can see that for 2023, our target was 87%, and that we're currently, actual performance is at 88%. So we're 1% off, but we're a little high. As you can see, we're working down to the target of 82% from that high back in the 2016, 2017 of about 91%.
Mr. Gregg, can you tell us why we're working down to that target?
Well, with the percentages on the interstate and some of our primaries were higher than the target, and so we're going down to the target. But it's more had more value to, we couldn't keep all of the roads in the condition of 90%. So working through this process, we agreed that to be able to keep all of the roads at a more acceptable level, the secondaries were lower, and to keep roads at a more acceptable level, satisfactory level, that we needed to come down on some of our interstates and high-volume primaries to be able to bring those other roads up to that more satisfactory level.
If I can say it a little different way, there were diminishing returns to keep it at the highest level that we were keeping it at, and we were competing with ourselves, if you will, to keep it there by not funding some stuff on some of the other roads in the system. So we're trying to bring everybody up to a reasonable place.
Yes, sir.
And we were too high in our view before, and we had diminishing returns for those dollars we were spending. So we were going to reallocate them, sort of like we did when we did Cuss Bridges in a way. We're going to reallocate those down to some of our other system so we can get those up so that everybody would be at a proper level.
Well said.
Is that fair?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Very fair. So moving on to the primaries, you can see the target for 2023 for the high volumes was 83, and that's where we are with our performance for 2023. And for our lower volumes primaries, target was 79, and we're at 80%, working our way down to that 75. So anytime going through here, you have a question, just stop me and we'll stop there. So for our secondaries, you can see that for our higher volume secondaries, we had quite a climb from around 60 to get to the 82 mark, and we're working our way up to that. The target for 23 was 73, and we're at 75 right now, and we're maintaining the 60% for those low volume secondaries. That's the report for the pavements. Any questions before I move on to the structures? All right. And just real quick, these are the pavement if you can see that, these are the pavement treatment methods that we use on our different, on our interstates for our paving. And each one of these has a different cost to do that. So that's why you see some of the cost as different treatments fluctuate. And here are the lane miles for our pavements over and cost. As you can see, the cost for pavements since 2019, the comprehensive plan was based on 2019 dollars, and these are the costs for our paving for the subsequent years after that. And
Kevin, can you go back a second, please?
absolutely, yes, sir.
I just want to double down on this. The line at the bottom of this, across the bottom, is really probably the most important line in the slide, I think. And you can see that as we move from preventative to reconstruction, the corrective is 4 times more expensive than preventative maintenance. And restorative is 2 times more expensive than that. And then reconstruction is 2 times more expensive than that. And so what we were doing is we were having this too high a standard with diminishing returns, and we're driving these up into the areas where they're corrective and restorative, and then they get more expensive. So
Correct.
We're reallocating money from something we were doing too well at, if you will, and putting it down in this category to get these up to standard and to save a lot of money along the way.
It does,
Because
absolutely.
if we wait, it's just going to be 4 and 6 and 8 times more expensive.
The longer you wait, the more you move into that reconstructive and restorative area.
So that's what's really driving all this. I just want to make that point.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
So again, this is our commitment in 2019 was $463 million for the first five years, and in 2020, that schedule had already been put together and advertised and awarded by the time in December of 2019 when that targets were established. So you can see that dollar amount, and those lane miles are a little bit less. And so as we ramped up to that 463 amount the next year, we have moved on and stayed on target from there.
Yes, Ms. Sellers.
So we're noticing this 2024 number at 841. What's causing that?
That's basically, most of that is inflation. The inflation in the estimates for 2024 were based, excuse me, on the actual bid prices that we got in 2023. So prices have gone up in 2023. We used those numbers to put the estimate together. And as you, excuse me, as you can see, the lane miles are a little bit more in 24 as well. And that was put together like that because we have a little bit of a push to meet those targets that we committed to for 2025.
I think, Ms. Sellers, if you look at 2021 and you look at the lane miles, we're 20% ahead of that in 2024. We're doing 20% more work. So you have that. So you got a 20% increase in the work, and you got the inflation that's in there as well.
I did not notice the lane miles. Yeah, that's, okay.
Hi, Ms.
It's
Gregg.
still, yeah, it's still a high, is it the material? Is it the labor? What's causing this inflation?
All
to
of the
go like-
above.
All of it?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, next we'll move into our structures. This slide, if you can see it, is just kind of an example of what we consider as structures. Bridges and structures do include some culverts and different types of bridges. The structures does not include the 25 special structures that we have. We'll get to that. We'll get to that later on, but does not include special structures. So process is very similar. We do bridge safety inspections on all of our structures at a minimum of every 2 years. Many of them are done annually, but we take these inspection reports and we come up with a bridge rating, a general condition rating, and you can see the three major components are our substructures, superstructures, and our deck, and what those ratings are. If any of those three items are rated, say they're rated a 5 is fair, but the other two items are higher, that bridge has a general condition rating of approximately 5. So you take the lower rating, and that's what governs as we go through. So as you look at these targets and where we are, then that general condition rating will make a little bit more sense. So these are the targets that the CTB set on all systems, and on the interstate, 97% of the 97% of our bridges will not be structurally deficient or in poor condition. If you notice, in the past, we did have structurally deficient. FHWA has moved away from that structurally deficient and doing fair, poor, good, excellent, those type of things. So we're in line with FHWA on the poor, but 97% of our bridges are not in poor condition. None of the bridges on the interstate system are posted to have a load capacity on those. So general condition rating of a 5.6 for all, greater than or equal to 5.6. Nothing will be, that's the goal, to keep everything above that. And you can see the other two targets for our primary and secondary system. So moving on to where we are based on those targets. In 2023, our target was 96 for all of our systems. This is just combining all interstate primary and secondaries into one. And we're about 97%, so we're right on target for that. And we're at 6.3 on a glide path to get to the 5.6 in our 50-year plan. So it's a long glide path as we go forward. Really, here are the key ones for their interstate. The target on our interstate for this year, for 2023, was 98.8. So it's 99, and we're right at 99 for a target for that percentage of not poor. And we're at 6.1, which is right on target for our general condition ratings for our interstate system. Primaries, very similar target for percentage not poor is 97, we're at 98. And same thing for target was 6.1 for the general condition rating, and we're at 6.2. On the secondaries, target was 95, we're at 96 for the percentage not poor. And for our general condition rating, the target was 6.3, and we're a little bit higher than that at 6.5. Questions on their structures? Structures are in generally good shape. Routine maintenance. So for routine maintenance, the targets, you can see the 2019 targets, and we've provided 2 years worth of data because that's what we have so far. And just a quick review, in 2019, when we set these targets, we did not have we did not have any historical data to get us to where to show us where we should be as far as best practices or where these targets should be set. And so we had a group of our maintenance people.
Kevin, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner, you might be able to help here, but this goes back to a decision some years before where VDOT was sort of reformed and changed. And Commissioner, you might speak to that because I think it's important as to why we didn't have any data to know what our targets should be or what our performance had been.
So, Mr. Secretary, as we developed the comprehensive plan in 2019 and began to look at the ordinary maintenance items and the assets that you see on the left-hand corner, everything from mowing to pipes, ditches, unpaved roads, and other items that we routinely do, back in 2007, the agency went through a sizable downsizing of the organization and had transformed our maintenance program into one that was much more of a reactive state, a call-out basis to be able to address these routine maintenance items, rather than taking a proactive stance and having routine maintenance items as our core proactive stance to be able to clear out ditches and pipes before they became an issue. So when we put the 2019 comprehensive review into place, the commitment was that we would come back to the board once we had better ideas on the number of assets that we had, the number of, and the amount of time that it would take to be able to go back in and assess these assets. One thing to note is that as you step away from an asset, like we were talking about pavements earlier, when it's in good condition, you walk away from an asset for 15, 20 years, you have a lot of catch-up that's going to be put into place. And so the last 2 years, the maintenance side of the house has been going through and identifying the number of assets that we have, the amount of time that it's going to take to be able to address those assets in a proactive stance while we're still maintaining them in a reactive situation. So it's hard to sit here and say that we don't have data. We don't have the data, but over the last 2 years, we've gotten a greater amount of information to be able to help us identify what we can achieve on an annual basis with the monies that we have, and potentially look at what it would take to be able to maintain our assets in a condition, maybe in a 5-year cyclical basis on our pipes or ditches, to be able to touch all of those assets in a 5-year or 10-year basis. And so we'll be back in front of the board probably later this spring with those findings over the last 2 to 3 years of what it's going to take to be able to address these assets. And I would highlight that when we're looking at some of these, our trees, our pipes, and our ditches, you saw that we're going to make at least a $500 million to $750 million investment on an annual basis to our pavements. The number one enemy of pavements is water. So how do we get the water away from the pavements? And it's through our ditching operations and our piping and daylighting of our roadways. So it's going to be these routine maintenance items have a very significant cost back to making sure our longevity of our assets are being met. So we'll be back in the spring to be able to readdress what these targets should be and what the investment should be in the coming years.
So boiling all that down, and 16 years ago, they went to a reactive call-out, basically downsized vision. And so when there was a problem, somebody noted a problem and they went and fixed it. We didn't like that so much. Now we have a plan. And the plan says, here are your assets. Here's the targets you need to be able to meet in order to keep those assets in good order and to spend your money wisely. And so we had to really go out and get sort of an inventory of the assets because we weren't really sure what they all were. How many ditches, how many lane miles of ditches do we have? How many culverts do we have? How many this do we have? And then put together a plan that says, here's how we're going to maintain them. So a much better stance, I believe, but you know, it's going to take us a little time to work into it, but that's where we're heading.
Absolutely. And
So that's the change. That's why we didn't have data. That's why we're sort of doing what we're doing now. So it was a call-out basis program, and now we're going to a planned maintenance program.
or plan, let's call out. And one of the items, just to give an example, is some of these items we were actually doing, but our maintenance management system, we weren't recording them properly in there, so we weren't able to take credit for that. So one of the first item, turf mowing, if you see that on the interstate, the target is 3 mowings, but many of our districts use what they call a plant growth retarder the first time so that the grass doesn't grow very much in the spring, so that they skip a mowing. They use that to save money, to skip a mowing, so they actually only have 2 remainder in the season. So we weren't picking that up before, but starting in '24, that'll count as a mowing so that we can show that we're actually out there doing something on our turf. Same thing for pipes and ditches. The target seems pretty high, and I agree with the secretary that if you're not meeting your target, it's a failure. But we were not capturing when we went out to inspect these assets. So if you go out and inspect a pipe, that's touching it, but we were only counting that pipe if we actually did some work to it. So we go out and we inspect our ditches and we inspect our pipes, but we weren't marking that down as actually doing some work. So we don't want to go out. We don't want to be out there ditching just for the sake of ditching. We want to go out, inspect it. If it needs it, we fix it. If it doesn't, we move on to the next one that actually needs it. So we're putting that in our documentation system so that it represents the actual work that we're doing and how we're touching those assets. So signals was just the opposite. If we went to a signal and they replaced the bulb and they opened the cabinet, that was 2 times. But we don't really, that's 1 now. So you go out to a signal intersection, and whatever you do, it's 1, and that's the way it should be. We don't need to. We know that they went into the cabinet and did this. They changed 2 bulbs, and they climbed up on the pole and changed something. But for our reporting, it's 1 trip. So we're making those adjustments to our systems so that we can better report the work that we're doing on our assets. So that's a work in progress, and we've committed to the secretary that between now and the spring, we're going to take another look at that with the data that we have and see if we need to adjust these targets or best practices and bring that back to you in a report. So, and you can see where we are with the trends on the right side, but that's where we are with our routine maintenance items. So are you okay with move forward? Okay, now is the special structures, and our special structures are our complex bridges, our movable bridges, tunnels, those type of things. And there were 25 of them that were designated when we originally started this. And if you remember the last couple of years, we've given a report that VDOT developed this unique health index, and that's really a first in the nation type of index to give a rating to these special structures that have all these complicated components in them, so that we have a better idea of the actual health of those assets. So 2 years ago, we did the health index on the tunnels and the movable bridges, and last year, the complex structures, we completed the health index on those. And so those health indexes that we have is the way we use to understand the condition of many of those components. So on this screen, this is the movable bridge health index, and the top top graph is the 2002 health index that we presented last year, and the bottom one is the health index that we've calculated for 23, and you can see the difference in them. The arrows in the bottom graph show whether it's moved up or down. Now, just because an arrow points down doesn't mean that's bad. It's kind of a typical cycle for mechanical, electrical type of things, even on our regular structures, that there's a life cycle, and they go from being really good when they're new, you know, and they have a life cycle and they wear out, and then gears, electrical devices, switch gears, those type of things need to be replaced. So they work through their life cycle, and when they start getting to a point that they need to be replaced, that health index tells us you need to go in there and do something. So that's where we are. You can see that there's some up and some down, but on the right side you can see the notable events, and that's really where what's important is that work is underway on Gwynn's Island. You can see there's one red, which is severe on Gwynn's Island under structural. That is currently under contract, and that work should be completed by the end of the year. That will turn back again to a good and green when it's inspected after the work. Anytime there's work done on one of our structures or special structures, that is re-inspected so that we can document that work has been completed, it's in good condition, and then we can update the health index at that time. So that Gwynn's Island, which is the only red on there, movable bridges, those structural repairs will be completed this year, and that will be updated. You'll see that next year as we give the report. Same thing on some of these others, that work is going on the Eltham, the Berkeley, High Rise, Benjamin Harrison, James River Bridge, and Coleman Bridge. So take care of those items that need to be replaced. So the next item is our tunnels. Same thing. Last year is 22 is in the top. This year 23 is at the bottom, and you can see a couple arrows going down and a couple arrows going up. But work is underway on those items you can see on the right-hand side of that at Big Walker and East River. Roslyn Tunnel has several contracts that are going on, and when that work is completed, that all of those items on the Roslyn Tunnel will move up to good. That's a pretty comprehensive repairs going on there, and of course you see the HRBT and Monte Merrimack. Work is going on there as well on those items that you see with the down arrows. Okay, the last one is the complex structures health index. You can see the last year and this year, some going up, some going down, but a lot of that work is at Willoughby as part of HRBT, and a lot of that is the approaches and the work at HRBT, and that project will take care of all of those approaches and the tunnel work there as well. So that project, those arrows may be there a little bit longer, as that's part of that construction project. That's all I have, sir. I'll be glad to answer any questions if there.
So basically what Mr. Craig has given us is just showing us where we are. We're now on a different kind of plan. We started that a few years ago, and sort of where we are, and it looks like we're on target on most things. And what we're trying to do is not get in a situation where we're trying to have everything perfect and have the diminishing returns of that expenditures, but get the other things that need to be brought up to a better level, not only for the use of it, but for the life cycle costs of it. And so we're compressing those together a little bit, spending less money and getting more done, and that's the concept here. So
Yes,
good
sir.
work. Is there any questions of Kevin?
Mr. Secretary.
Craig? Yes, sir. Dr. Smoot.
Kevin, thank you for the report. While it is certainly comforting to know that 90% or more of our bridges are not in poor condition, there's somewhere between 3% and 10% that are, depending on the road type. What do we do to, if anything, to particularly monitor those in poor condition to assure as best we can that nothing really bad happens?
Sir,
And what does poor condition mean?
back to
I
the,
think,
back
the
to-
reason I
back to-
asked that,
Back to
Dr.
the
Smoot,
slides.
The reason I asked that is because, and Mr. Gregg made mention of this, but we used to call them, and FHWA led us down this road, but they've changed. They used to call them structurally deficient. And boy, when I heard that the first time, sitting in one of these meetings, I said, we got these bridges that are structurally deficient, meaning like they're going to fall in deficient, and that's not what it meant. And so you need to understand what it means. I'm not suggesting it's a good thing. I'm just suggesting that it doesn't mean it's an imminent failure. And so when we talk about poor, it's important we understand what that means, and we don't want to be poor, Dr. Smoot, but what does that really mean,
Yes.
and what are we doing?
Out of the, poor does not mean unsafe. So I want to be clear that none of our bridges that traffic is going over them now are unsafe. If at any time, as a result of a bridge safety inspection, and many of these that are in poor condition are done annually, but no less than every 2 years, we inspect our structures. If at any time one of our structures is determined to be unsafe, then we close it until we can make repairs to get it back safe. But on the slide that I don't know if I can get back to that slide, but on the slide for structures, you could see that. See if I can get back to it. There you go. I don't know if you can see that or not. There, in the group that's called poor, there's poor, serious, critical, imminent failure, and failed. And so there's, in the life cycle of a structure, and I said that earlier, that there's always going to be things that happen. You know, you show up and the rail has been knocked off, or the deterioration on one of the structural members had deteriorated more than last year, and it drops it down into that category. And so that's how we go about prioritizing the work that we do, is those structures that are in that category poor, and we kind of call them cusp now, that they drop down out of fair, they drop down into the fair category. We try to catch them then before they get into that poor category. But there are 7 bridges out of the 21,000 that we have that are in the critical and serious, and one was in imminent failure, and those are having work done on them as we speak. So as they get into those categories, that work is prioritized, so we go out and do that, and then we do a re-inspection. Our safety inspection team goes out there and looks at them to say, okay, that work was done, it was done correctly, and give it a new rating so it actually moves up. But those are the ones that we pay the most attention to, and how we prioritize our work as they work their way down and get into that fair and poor category.
Thank you.
But they're looked at,
Anyone else?
and we do have some structures that are looked at every 6 months, but generally it's on an annual or every 2-year type basis.
Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Putting my businessman's hat on, this inflationary projection or estimate, how are we going to cover? I mean, you're on the right trajectory in terms of prioritizing what we're working on, but how are you going to stay on that same glide slope with the inflation facing us? I know I'm still learning all the buckets of money, but
Mr. Coleman, I think there are 2 things. The inflation is driving the revenue picture as well.
okay.
So we have more money than we've had before. That's number 1. And number 2, at the end of the day, and this is sort of what we struggle with or grapple with, we say that we're going to do our maintenance first. We're going to take care of what we have first, right? And whatever we have left is what we use to build new stuff with. And that's the way that it works. And so we're going to do what we need to do to maintain our system and to make sure that we're meeting our targets and to make sure things are safe. We're going to do that first, and whatever money we have left over, that's what we build new stuff with. And if we don't have any, we don't build. It's sort of that simple. Now, we're not in that situation, thank goodness, and I think the inflation curve is hopefully trending in the right direction. But we have more money than we've had, and we're going to do our maintenance first. And then that means that, we have crossover, as you know, the term we use when we take money out of our construction budget and move to our maintenance budget. We've done that a number of times in our history, and we'll continue to do it. I remember doing it when we ran out of snow money. We spent like $500 million on snow one year or something. It was an outrageous number, and we ran out. We didn't have any more, so we had to take it out of construction. And that's what we do. All right, anyone else?
Thank you.
Yes, sir, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gregg.
Thank you, sir.
Done. Next item on the agenda, pardon me, is item number 4, the proposed through truck restriction on Route 206. Mr. Gregg.
Yes, sir. Normally, these through truck restrictions are mostly on secondaries, and the commissioner has delegated authority for those, so he takes care of those. But this one, on the primary system, this Route 206, which is a primary route, the primary route requires CTB approval for through truck restriction. And if you can see from the map or it was in your handouts, this length of Route 206 is about 9.2 miles. The alternate routes are Route 3 and Route 301, which will provide an additional distance of 3.3 miles and approximately a 3-minute travel for this detour. The through truck restriction was requested by the county. The existing road, Route 206, is a 2-lane undivided with no shoulders, limited turning lanes, primarily people's homes up and down this road. Total vehicle traffic is a little over 8,600 vehicles a day, and of those, it's approximately average of about 86 trucks per day going up and down Route 206. So the alternate route would be Route 301 and Route 3. As you can see, both of these are 4-lane divided. Both of them have some shoulder widths, 11 and 12-foot lanes, which are more appropriate for truck traffic. Both of these routes currently carry between 11 and 12,000 vehicles a day, and currently have, depending on which route it is, 600 to 900 trucks. So both of these now carry a higher volume of trucks and are more appropriate for truck traffic rather than Route 206, which has mostly residential type entrances off of that route. So in accordance with the code, the county had the public comments for 30 days. We got 12 comments, 8 in favor, 2 opposed, and 2 didn't have a position. They just wanted to comment on it. Most of the comments were concerned about more trucks. The 2 that were opposed were saying, well, you're putting more trucks on 301 and Route 3, which is correct, but they're more suitable for the truck type traffic that we have. So this does satisfy the requirements of the code for restricting truck through traffic on the primary. We will recommend that the approval of this restriction, and we will bring this back to you for action at the December meeting.
Any questions? Ms. Sellers, you take the question?
One quick question.
Yeah, Ms. Davis, and then I'll come with Mr. Kaspertz.
Thank you. Directionally, as far as the direction of travel, is it equally split on the 86 trucks? Is it approximately 40 one way, 40 back the other way, or are you finding that the path of travel tends to be one way because it's a destination that they're headed to elsewhere outside of this?
I believe that it's pretty equal in both directions, but I could go back and check to make sure on that.
Thank you.
That documentation in your package was very voluminous, and so it's in that package, and I'll go back and find that out.
Mr. Kaspertz.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Kevin, what's the nature of the 9.2-mile corridor that's actually going to be restricted? Is it residential, rural, combination? Are there any small towns or villages along that corridor?
There's small towns and villages, but it's mostly it's more rural, and it's more houses, residential type thing there.
If you look at slide 3, Mr. Kaspertz, and I drove the road actually on Google just to look at it, and it looks pretty much like slide 3. It's narrow. Okay. It's sort of neighborhood, residential. And what appealed to me the most about this, or not appealed to me, but what made me feel best about it was it's a 3-minute difference. It's not a substantial difference.
Pressures that
if you're going A to B, it's 13 versus 16.
Certainly reasonable. Yeah.
Most of the crashes that
It wasn't
occurred
20
were,
minutes, it wasn't 20 minutes, right? It was 3.
Right. Most of the crashes that occurred were rear ends where people had stopped, turned into their driveway, and somebody hit them in the back. So.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Ms. Sellers?
Yeah, to answer Mr. Casper's question, it's rural residential, so larger properties. It's a very windy road, very narrow road, and what happens, especially with Route 3 and 301, is as 95 comes to a stop there in Fredericksburg, people take 301 and then they can cut over and go in through this Dahlgren Road, which becomes a cut through. And so it's not just the volume, but it is the speed that makes people feel very unsafe when tractor trailers are on this road because it is so narrow. And this is, you know, the folks who live there drive big vehicles themselves and going by, you know, bi-directional with the 18-wheeler, and then your Dodge Ram is just not very comforting. So I did receive several emails and folks that support it. There are 2 business owners on the road who also support it. One who does business with these trucks and says it will not impact her business. So the community is in
Yeah,
support.
for those folks that have a business that require trucks, it doesn't restrict them. They can still come and go from their business. It's only for through trucks.
Anybody else? Thank you, sir, very much.
Yes, sir.
Next item on the agenda is item number 5, the policy index review with Ms. Joanne Maxwell and Andy Wright.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm here to provide to you another set of results from policy index review and to plant the seed for action item next CTB meeting. Just a little background. In 2005, the policy index, the CTB's policy index notebook was created at the direction of then Secretary of Transportation Whit Clement. The objective was clearly just to assemble all of the CTB policies that had in essence been enacted since 1906 into one document so that we had one general repository of policies that was in essence a go-to guide and provided the ability for the CTB to be aware of the policies that were in existence, other regulations, et cetera. So then, after many years, in a resolution dated March, and one of the things that in March of 2005, the VDOT was directed to maintain the policy notebook and also to make updates to it as necessary or as necessitated by changes in law, changes in regulations, et cetera. So then, as time passed, obviously the index grew in volume and number of policies, and as a result, VDOT was directed to make the policy notebook available electronically, so it was more manageable and accessible and reviewable. We also divided the policy index into an index and then we've made a separate document for the orientation guide. We arranged the policy index so that policies were grouped by categories as opposed to set out chronologically. And finally, we expanded it to include a chapter on delegations from the CTB. Then, from 2017 and 2022, realizing that the index was growing very large, we embarked on a review of all of the policies in the index to identify those policies that were obsolete due to passage of time, statutory transfer of responsibilities, or explicit CTB repeal or rescission. During that time frame, we removed approximately 450 policies from the notebook over that period of time. We started out with approximately 585 policies, so it was quite an endeavor. But now, realizing that that's going to require continual, the index is going to require continual update, we're here now to present to you the last reviews that we've done. Over the past year or so, we've reviewed approximately 32 policies and found that of those 32, probably for VDOT, 5 policies warrant repeal. So on slide 5 is a list of those policies that VDOT is asking or requesting that the CTB repeal. I don't know, I can go through these very quickly.
Does anybody have any questions about these? Have you looked at them?
Yeah, attached
They're
to,
pretty straightforward.
and attached to your presentation is also the explicit policies themselves, and they're annotated with the reasons, more general reasons or information as to why they're being repealed. So those are the 5 policies that we're asking that the CTB consider for repeal. So next steps in the upcoming months, probably most likely December, we'll come back to the board and ask that the board consider or take action on repealing those 5 policies, and then we'll update the CTB policy index according to the action taken by the CTB. And just for informational purposes, that index is posted on the CTB website, and at any time, if you have curiosity or feel like you need to reference a policy, it is out there under policies.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, thank you.
Mr. Wright? Morning.
Morning, Mr. Secretary,
Welcome.
members of the board. The same process that Ms. Maxwell and VDOT conducted, we did the same thing over at DRPT, and we have 4 resolutions that we're bringing to the board for recommendation to repeal. I'll just walk through them real quickly. First one, the December 2015 Rail Enhancement Fund Policy Update. We are recommending repeal because REF no longer exists. The 2020 General Assembly repealed that code section. The next resolution is the January 2018 Passenger Station Rail Policy. The 2020 General Assembly in the same legislation created the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority, and the station policy now falls under their purview. And the last 2 are the guidelines for urban transit agency strategic plans and the policy for the implementation of state transit capital prioritization. We are recommending the repeal of the October 2018 resolutions on these topics. The board, as required by code, updated those policies in 2022, making the 2018 policies obsolete.
Mr. Wright, why would they not have just gone away when we updated them? We didn't handle it that way?
We didn't handle it that way. We're now moving forward, putting language at the bottom of each resolution saying that
Perfect.
the prior versions are going to be repealed.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions?
Mr. Secretary?
Yes, Ms. Hines?
I don't have a question, but I actually have a commendation for the staff that has been working so hard on this. It's really nice to be able to go to the website and poke around, and if you're curious what the policy is on X, Y, or Z, see what exists already. So it's a tool we didn't have when I first joined this board in 2016, and it's a very nice tool for board members and for the general public.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Thank you, Mr. The next item on the agenda is the updated memorandum of agreement with the CVTA. Mr. Totten. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr.
How are you
Secretary,
this
members
morning?
of the board. Trust everybody's well this morning. I'll be brief. This is an update on the memorandum of agreement between Commonwealth Transportation Board and CVTA, Central Virginia Transportation Authority. As a matter of background, CVTA was created in the 2020 session of the General Assembly. Those specifics are set out in Chapter 37 of the code. Title 33 specifically. Chapter 37 provides for local state taxes in localities comprising Planning District 15 and requires that the revenues derived from such taxes go to the CVTA and are used explicitly for transportation purposes. December 2020, the CTB approved and authorized the commissioner to execute an MOA with the CVTA. That MOA provides the conduit and processes for the transfer of funds to the CVTA and addresses the various roles of CVTA and VDOT with regard to the CVTA fund and its related activities. Also included in the MOA is a standard project agreement template for VDOT administration of CVTA projects if requested by CVTA. Earlier this year, CVTA came and the member localities developed a template for their use and entering into standard project agreements, providing for localities administration of CVTA projects. The locality CVTA SPA template is much more streamlined than our current template for VDOT administered projects, and there's a desire for uniformity and standardization across the SPAs by CVTA. So VDOT staff, locality staffs, and CVTA staff are working to revise the SPA agreement template for VDOT administered projects to get our template to be consistent and similar in format to the locality CVTA agreement. Action by this board is proposed, action by CVTA is expected to occur and approve the template next week. Both the CVTA and CTB are going to be provided copies of the revised template for VDOT administered projects. Specifically, you all will receive that in advance of the action session next time you meet. The ask is pretty straightforward, 3 bullets. The ask of you all as a group is approval of the revised SPA template for VDOT administered projects. It's authorization for the commissioner to execute an amendment to the MOA addressing the revised SPA template, and then authorization for the commissioner to enter into the standard project agreements utilizing the revised template for the administration of any projects in part or whole, as long as the project's been in a 6-year plan. Open any questions, sir.
Mr. Secretary?
Next steps. You got another slide, don't you? Don't you have another slide?
I do not, sir. I feel it.
You do. You just went there, anticipated next steps.
Sorry.
There you
I'll
go.
leave that up there.
Not recent. Next one. There you go. That's the final slide. Ms. Hines?
Too much coffee. Sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Mr. Totten, does this have any implications for other regional entities?
It does not. Actually, I would say that this action will bring our agreements in the CVTA closer in better alignment with Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much, sir. Next item on the agenda is the director's items. So Director DeBrule first. And might I say, Mr. DeBrule, before you get started, great tour yesterday. We saw a lot of great stuff. It was awesome to see some stuff that we've been talking about and are very involved in, along with John Lynch, where we got to ride around and see a lot of stuff on our roads. And it's just great to be up here and to be able to do that, and then topped off by the rest of the activities yesterday. And certainly was great, the reception last night as well. So thank you, Ms. DeBrule, and thank everybody who made that possible.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and the credit goes to my Alexandria-based team who put that together with our partners at Metro, Arlington County, and the City of Alexandria. You have my written director's report in your notebook. I spend a lot of time drawing attention to the work of our rail and transit teams. In my report, typically, all of our ridership numbers are continuing to trend in the right direction. So I'm not going to focus so much on that and talk a little bit about our agency that doesn't get as much headline with the board, and that's our administrative and finance teams. We still work off of a grants management system that's integrated with our financial system that's over 20 years old. And the team's been working diligently over the last year with our partners to roll out a new grants management system, which we'll do over the next month. So by the time we come back to the next board meeting, we're going to be on an entirely new platform. Just incredibly proud of my very small but mighty team back in Richmond that's working hard to make that happen. Also on the financial front, in your folder, you have our quarterly financial report. And with that, I'll conclude my updates, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Mr. Commissioner.
Mr. Secretary, as you know, I've deferred many of the months my comments. I'm going to make up for them today. So, in your package, you have 3 items, and I'll start with the first item, which is a singular page. I'm supposed to advise the CTB of agreements and contracts that are executed between VDOT and U.S. government entities as it relates to environmental clearances. And what you have in your document is a 1-page overview of an amendment to an existing agreement that we executed during this past quarter with the Federal Highway Administration, the National Park Service, and the Virginia State Historic Preservation Office, or officer. And it's just with regard to our environmental clearances that we've committed to on the I-64 improvements from Interstate 95 to I-664 in Hampton Roads. All this amendment does is simply extends the agreement by another 5 years. The original agreement was executed in 2013, and the first amendment that we had to it was to extend it another 5 years in 2018. So this is just an extension of an extension. So nothing real. Second item in your package, we are bringing back the Commissioner's quarterly report for you. So in this document, we do have the announcement of the I-95 FredEx or Fredericksburg Extension Express lanes opening back in September of this month or this year. Down at the bottom of the overview is our business plan, and I anticipate giving you a copy of the business plan that has been recently approved by myself at the December meeting. And then Kevin went through a list of the maintenance program performance items that we have, as well as a listing of all the awards that the agency has received over the last 90 days. Also included in your package are 2 financial plans. These are the initial finance plans that are associated with our major projects, anything valued over $1 million or $100 million. In your package, you will have the Fairfax County Parkway widening, the southern section being in there, as well as the I-64 gap widening, and that financial plan includes all 3 sections, A, B, and C. So that is what's in your package. Now, Mr. Secretary, if you'll give me an indulgence to call up one of our staff people.
Sir.
Can I have John Lynch come to the podium? So as you know, John is the Northern Virginia District Engineer, and with great regret, he has announced to me and the executive team his impending retirement at the end of the year. So this will be his last Commonwealth Transportation Board meeting. So John, I do want to read an item for you. A little bit of some of your staff has indulged me with a little bit of the background as well as some other things. So John's resume is extensive. He holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the University of Delaware and a master's degree in civil engineering from George Mason University. Most recently, in 2021, John Lynch returned to the Northern Virginia District to assume the role of the district engineer after serving 8 years in the same role in Culpeper. Prior to that, John was Northern Virginia District's Mega Projects Director, District Construction Engineer, District Location and Design Engineer, and in addition, John has served over 20 years in a progressively responsible design engineering experience in several private firms and starting his career in California for Caltrans, I believe. More importantly, what his resume does not say is that he has been a fixture within transportation in Virginia, and he has a map to prove it. So in Fairfax, so what has he touched in Virginia? Fairfax County Parkway, the Woodrow Wilson Bridge, Springfield Interchange, the Route 29 Gainesville Interchange, I-495 Express Lanes, I-95 Express Lanes, and in the Culpeper District, he managed the 29 Solutions and the Commonwealth's first diverging diamond in Zion's Crossroads. But it's not all about building infrastructure, concrete, and rebar. John is about developing people and leadership and support and opportunity. And I will say that from his staff's perspective, this is the reason why John is revered in VDOT, especially in the Northern Virginia and the Culpeper districts. He understands the single greatest resource are his people. and his decisions and actions are guided by his care and consideration for them. As evidenced by his unyielding commitment to safety, and he's been winning the Safety Excellence Program inside the department. He's won our Safety Award Excellence Cup twice. I will say that his meetings start with safety messages, all kind of safety training. He visits facilities on the mainstay, and his staff's empowered to think in creative solutions and safety ideas as they arise. So John has succeeded in building strong teams who are skilled, creative, compassionate, and dedicated. His leadership, vision, and strategy also ensures that those teams will continue to grow and thrive, and John is cherished by his staff. You know, one thing I will say is that, John, I did ask you to take, in your final several years of leadership role with the agency and pulling you out of Culpeper. You've done a tremendous job here in Northern Virginia, and I appreciate everything that you've done, and I wish you well. Sorry to see you go. If I could have another 2 or 3 years, I'd greatly appreciate it if you want to stay a little bit longer, but I would understand otherwise. So with that being said, Mr. Secretary, I think a round of applause.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an honor to serve this board, the agency, and all the citizens of the Commonwealth. So thank you all. I'll miss it, but I'll be enjoying another part of my life. So thanks very much.
Be careful. You know, Mr. Commissioner, you said that John is retiring at the end of the year, and so this will be his last CTB meeting. But we have a meeting in December, Mr. Commissioner. So I think we're going to need to get Mr. Lynch just to come down because he loves these so much.
I
He wants to get one more under his belt.
I think he has a little bit of vacation planned between now and then.
You're like retiring, and the last month you'll be on vacation. Is that how that works? I love that. It's all good. Well, it's well-deserved, sir, and just echoing the commissioner's comments. Thanks for everything you've done, and we'll miss you. But I'm sure you'll give us your advice and counsel whenever you feel the need to.
Mr. Secretary, could
Yes, Ms.
I
Hines.
just add
Please.
a short word, because the commissioner really summed up all of the ways in which John has been such a great leader in our district. But as a CTB member, he's also just been a terrific support. And for that, I personally want to thank him. He's a problem solver. He doesn't say no. He says, let me think about it, and he means he'll think about it. And he wants to find a solution that will help people move forward, as well as all the vehicles and other things that use our system. So it's been a deep pleasure for me to work with him for the last couple of years. It's really been wonderful.
Thank you, Ms. Hines. Mr. Kaspertz.
I'd like to just echo Ms. Hines' comments, John. It's been a pleasure working with you, and I think the only thing left to be said that hasn't been said is he's a darn nice guy, and just a great pleasure to work with. We're going to miss you, John. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. That concludes the workshop meeting for the Commonwealth Transportation Board, and I'm going to adjourn that meeting. And now I'm going to open the meeting for the action meeting of the Commonwealth Transportation Board. Our first item on the agenda is public comment, and I'm going to hook somebody up that's trying to get on an airplane. Mr. Snyder. Where's Mr. Snyder? We're moving you to the top of the list, sir. What terminal are you flying out of?
Actually, it's a few feet away, the Southwest Terminal.
Perfect. So, Snyder, welcome. Tell us who you are. And
Dave Snyder, member of City Council of Falls Church. I'm also Vice Chair of the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority and Secretary-Treasurer of the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission. I speak, though, today purely from the standpoint of the City of Falls Church and perhaps other smaller jurisdictions throughout the Commonwealth. And I want to thank you very much for having this meeting here. In terms of my own business-related travel, but also I think it provides new meaning to government in the sunshine. So thank you so much for the opportunity to participate. We and a number of other small jurisdictions around the Commonwealth have had a good experience with Smart Scale as it's currently configured and with the current criteria. One of our greatest interests right now is to ask the board to publish analysis of the different proposals on Smart Scale, the current performance as well as the different alternatives. That'll be really helpful for the public to understand and best engage with you as you, as you make your final decision on this important issue. We have some specific issues that we wanted to raise about the current proposal as we understand it, and would urge further consideration of the alternatives, including those considered and put forward by Mary Hines. First of all, we're not sure that further expanding the congestion measure is a good way to go, considering the diversity of transportation challenges throughout the Commonwealth. We support increasing the weighting of the accessibility measure. The city, and I think other small jurisdictions around the Commonwealth would strongly object to eliminating small projects less than 10 million from the high priority projects category. So it's not just small jurisdictions in Northern Virginia, but it's small jurisdictions throughout the Commonwealth. We'd like to emphasize the importance of economic development and how Smart Scale can support this through projects and land use. And I do recall that the Northern Virginia Transportation Commission has calculated that the value of transit to the Commonwealth, not just Northern Virginia, but the Commonwealth, exceeds $1.5 billion each year. We're very concerned about the proposed changes to the land use measures. The factor should, in our view, continue to score existing walk access to key non-work destinations, and weighting based on population and employment density should remain. So in conclusion, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I'm available in my other capacities anytime that would be useful to your important deliberations. And we asked for a very thorough study, including data runs on different proposals regarding Smart Scale to see what will the impact be on large and small jurisdictions, as well as the importance of a diversity of transportation options to address the diversity of transportation needs throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia. So thank you very much for the opportunity to make these comments, and we do look forward to working with you as you review Smart Scale and the importance of considering some of the factors that I've mentioned today. So with that, I appreciate your attention, I appreciate your support, and most importantly, I appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, and hope you have a safe trip today.
Thank you, sir.
Hope you're going someplace good.
Chicago, I'll leave that up to you as to whether that's good or not. Thank you, sir.
Have a Chicago hot dog, right? Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Next is it Christian Dorsey or Dozy?
Dorsey.
Dorsey? Welcome, sir. You certainly can. Be great.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Christian Dorsey, Chair of the Arlington County Board, and I want to welcome you all to our county and for your meetings, and I hope you're enjoying a warm stay in our community thus far, and I hope you have a great time at the Governor's Conference beginning this afternoon, where you'll get to enjoy the broader Crystal City area outside of the airport. And as you'll see, this community, this area, but also much of Arlington, including our Roslyn-Boston corridor, is built with an intense multimodal focus. And it is not something that is a luxury in Arlington County. It is, in fact, a necessity. And I hope during your tour that you had yesterday with Ms. DeBrule and Ms. Rivers, you got a chance to really experience what that means for people who live, work, and play here. And as the core of our transportation network, the multimodal build-out of Arlington is what has enabled high-rise residences and the intense commercial investment that we've seen from companies like Amazon. That wouldn't be possible without our multimodal connections. And we very much rely on the support from the Commonwealth in order to drive economic opportunity and to connect our communities. And with that being the focus of the Governor's Conference, it really captures the essence of what we think transportation as a discrete policy area means to all of us, connecting people to economic opportunity. And land use patterns, as well as transportation infrastructure, work together to achieve that goal. We are very concerned about dropping land use as a discrete factor in smart scale, though we acknowledge and understand that the question of how to properly measure it is unlikely to be resolved in the near term. So to that end, Arlington County is interested in seeing the smart scale project, round 5 project rankings that result from the policy change proposal that was put forth by Ms. Hines and Mr. Kaprowitz during yesterday's workshop meeting. And we understand that that proposal would change the factor weights in area type A to congestion mitigation at 40%, safety at 20%, accessibility at 25%, environment at 10%, and economic development at 5%. But beyond that, we support broader changes to smart scale policy from that proposal as an alternative to the September staff scenario from OIPI. Now, explicitly, we ask that you include the following in the definition of high priority projects: corridor redevelopment, including innovative intersections, transportation demand management, traffic signals, and access management, and high-capacity fixed guideway transit, including bus rapid transit, as well as light rail. We ask that you also modify both congestion mitigation measures to equally include current congestion and 10-year future congestion. And we will provide detailed written comments on other proposed changes, including leaving the smart scale application caps unchanged from existing policy. And we look forward to OIPI's further analysis and request that the results be posted and shared so that localities like ours can understand the illustrative impacts of the changes. Smart scale has worked quite well over the first 5 rounds of funding, and we support policy updates that ensure it will continue to serve the Commonwealth in subsequent rounds. Thank you very much for your time and attention this morning and for your consideration of our comments.
Thank you, Mr. Dorsey. Really appreciate it very much. Next on our list is Mr. Clark Hedrick. It's Ms. Clark Hedrick.
No, I'm Jolly Mosley, and I'm also with Town of Herndon. Mr. Hedrick was called on business call, and he had to attend the meeting at the Hill.
Well, we're glad to have you.
If you permit me, I
Of
can
course.
read over the comments that
Please.
Mr. Hedrick had prepared.
Thank you very much.
Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Jolly Mosley, and I'm with the Town of Herndon government. I thank you for this opportunity to comment on the proposed changes to VDOT's Smart Scale funding program. Herndon is in western Fairfax County, bordering the Dulles Toll Road and Fairfax County Parkway. Our western border is less than 1.5 miles from Route 28, and we are only 15 minutes from Dulles Airport via the new Herndon Silver Line metro station. The town is on the cusp of significant economic growth and increased housing density in the form of transit-oriented development planned to capitalize the massive public investment in the Silver Line. Herndon's roadways serve the region. They are heavily traveled by regional traffic passing through the town to reach destinations outside of Herndon. Congestion within the town impacts the region, but this is corridor congestion within developed areas, and highways and interchange expansion are not applicable solutions. As Herndon sees higher density redevelopment along its corridors, the densification in eastern Loudoun, Reston, and Tysons, congestion within the town will increase and thus will impact the regional traffic. Like most smaller developed jurisdictions, Herndon needs some roadway capacity improvements. An important capacity improvement in the Herndon Station redevelopment area, 1 block from the station, metro station entrance, recently failed to obtain and secure smart-scale funding. Although the project is a short link, it is a critical connection within the street grid. The new road will be necessary to alleviate future congestion and future safety issues as transit-oriented densification occurs. But based on it being a new facility and what appeared to be an excessive smart-scale cost, the project scored very poorly. While some roadway capacity improvements are still important to Herndon, smaller jurisdictions, including Herndon, must rely heavily on the creation of a safe and extensive multimodal system that removes local trips from the roads. Please don't underestimate the positive impact that strategically located smaller projects, including multimodal improvements, can have on congestion. To achieve a balanced and fair solution, the town asks that any changes to the scoring system for Smart Scale Funding Program reflect Ms. Hines and Mr. Kaspowitz's latest proposal. Town of Herndon greatly appreciate their effort and support of the town and the region. Thank you for your consideration, and thank you for letting me deliver Mr. Hedrick's remarks.
Thank you, Ms. Mosley. Very much appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rob Donaldson. Mr. Donaldson, welcome.
Good morning, Secretary Miller and members of the Commonwealth Transportation Board. My name is Rob Donaldson, and I'm the Senior Regional Transportation Planner with Loudoun County's Department of Transportation and Capital Infrastructure. On behalf of Loudoun County, thank you for the opportunity to provide input to the Commonwealth Transportation Board regarding proposed changes to Smart Scale as part of the Smart Scale process review in advance of Round 6 applications. Transportation is the lifeblood of Virginia's economy. And with that, Loudoun County recognizes the critical role that Smart Scale plays in advancing multimodal mobility projects across the Commonwealth. Loudoun County is a unique jurisdiction in Northern Virginia, with a mix of urban, suburban, and rural environments that lend themselves to diverse transportation needs. These needs range from Silver Line Metro rail stations within the county to additional roadway capacities on corridors of statewide significance and other regional networks, to enhancements in our rural area to preserve our rural road network and other associated heritage resources. With this in mind, we offered the following suggestions on the proposed changes to Smart Scale evaluation process for Round 6. First is for application quality. Loudoun supports keeping the application number at 10 for counties in area type A. As Loudoun County has several incorporated towns that can only submit Smart Scale applications via the county, we recommend that if the CTB were to reduce the maximum number of applications per county, applications submitted on behalf of a town should not count against the county's allocation. For project readiness, because Smart Scale applications are required to be submitted years in advance of the commencement of a project, Loudoun supports a change to acceptance criteria to focus on overall project readiness instead of construction readiness. This may take the form of a planning study or similar analysis at the time of application submittal. For forward-looking congestion, in fast-growing localities such as Loudoun County, applications should be measured against future year congestion relief rather than current congestion data, as the delta between the two will likely vary significantly due to the length of time it takes for project funding to be received. A 10-year horizon is a reasonable time frame for evaluating future congestion benefits as an addition to Smart Scale. For economic development, not all transportation improvements need to be directly adjacent to a particular land development site to provide significant benefits. As such, Loudoun would recommend a wider corridor-based assessment of Smart Scale applications. And finally, for the land use factor redistribution, Loudoun supports the weight distribution as presented by Ms. Hines yesterday, with a congestion mitigation at 40%, safety at 20%, accessibility at 25%, economic development at 5%, and environmental at 5%. We appreciate the opportunity to provide comment today. Thank you again, Secretary Miller and CTB members, for your efforts regarding the ongoing Smart Scale process review. And thank you in particular to CTV members Mary Hines and Scott Kasperitz for all you do to help Loudoun County in Northern Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donaldson. Appreciate you being here today. Our final speaker that signed up is Catherine Reed. Welcome, Ms. Reed.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning, Secretary Miller and members of the Commonwealth Transportation Board. I am Catherine Reed, the mayor of the city of Fairfax for 291 days. Previously, I was born in Galax, Virginia, a proud graduate of Christiansburg Primary School and William Byrd High School in Vinton, and on October 25th of 1981, 42 years ago. Now there are thousands of students living on the campus of George Mason University, and there are probably hundreds of students who live within the borders of the city of Fairfax. First, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the Commonwealth for the funding the city has received from SmartScale. We have been fortunate to receive funding for 8 projects over the past 5 funding rounds. These projects will reduce congestion, promote walkability, improve safety, and support economic development in the city of Fairfax, which is surrounded by Fairfax County and George Mason University. We are truly at the heart of Northern Virginia, and these projects will make a real difference. 1 year ago, we celebrated the opening of the University Drive extension, which was funded in the first round of SmartScale. This project provided a new multimodal roadway with a large 21-acre superblock in the city's Northax Activity Center. This new road has created a street grid where previously one did not exist. It has created new retail frontages and shared use paths and has already been the catalyst for increased redevelopment interest in the key gateway area of the city. Like this project, our other funded projects will help residents more easily move around the city and region by car, bike, foot, or transit to access jobs, transit, parks, school, and shopping. The Q bus, which also started in 1981, was the first fare-free bus here in Northern Virginia. I was among the first riders to ride that bus in 1981 because I did not own a car. That is a game changer for us, and access to the Q bus and its access to the rest of the region is incredibly important. Many of these project scores would drop significantly under the proposed methodology based on the preliminary information we've seen showing just round 5. It is possible, in turn, that many would not have been funded had this methodology been in place. I implore the CTB to consider an alternative methodology to what's been proposed, one that would increase the land use and/or accessibility factors and decrease the congestion reduction factor, such as the one proposed yesterday by Ms. Hines and Mr. Kasperwitz. We are interested to see the updated scoring that will result from this proposal. We believe that this proposal will offer an appropriate balance of factors. The City of Fairfax is grateful for the funding we have received to date. The multimodal improvements that have and will be accomplished with SmartScale funding are vital to improved mobility throughout Northern Virginia. At this important moment, we urge you to ensure that this important funding program balances the needs of all jurisdictions in the Commonwealth. Thank you for your time today and for your service to the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate you being here. Is there anyone else who wanted to speak who didn't sign up? All right, thank you. We'll move into the rest of the agenda. The approval of the minutes. The minutes were distributed in your package. Are there any comments or corrections or on the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve? Dr. Smoot moves. Is there a second? Ms. Eller seconds. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Item 1, action on limited access control changes for Frontier Drive extension. Mr. Heltzel.
Good morning,
Welcome.
Mr.
Good
Secretary,
morning.
members of the board. I have two items under this heading. They're routine but very important to Fairfax County and Northern Virginia District. I think our board package information was pretty complete, but in the interest of time, I'd like to just summarize the findings there for both of these items, Mr. Secretary, even though you'll probably have separate motions. This involves a project in Northern Virginia District to improve access and egress and circulation to the Franconia Springfield Wilmota Transit Station and the Springfield Mall area. VDOT and the authority held a combined location and design public hearing for this project, and we have an approved draft environmental assessment and several location and engineering studies. Fairfax County has endorsed both the access control changes and the preferred location alternative that VDOT is recommending today. Both of these items have also been approved by our chief engineer. The department is requesting the board's approval for both of these, and with that, we'll move on to the next stages of engineering design to prepare right-of-way and construction plans.
Mr. Secretary,
Ms. Hines?
I move approval.
We're going to take these one at a time.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's action number one. Is there any comments or any questions? All right, we have a motion and a second, I think.
Mr. Yates seconded.
Mr. Yates seconded, Ms. Hines moved. Is there further discussion? This will be item one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Item two. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Ms. Hines moves. Is there a second? Mr. Casper, did you second? Mr. Casper seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you,
members of the
sir.
board.
Item number three, action on commemorative naming of the bridge on Route 613 East Spring Street over the South Fork of the Powell River. Bristol District is the Michael D. Chandler Memorial Bridge. Mr. Prezioso.
Good morning. It's an opportunity today to present two items to you. I consider them opportunities to recognize heroes within our Commonwealth. The first one is the Michael D. Chandler Memorial Bridge. This is in the Bristol District in Wise County. This is Route 613 over the South Fork of the Powell River, to be named as the Michael D. Chandler Memorial Bridge. The county passed a resolution in August of 2023 to honor Officer Michael Chandler. He was born in November 1992 and died in November 2021 after being mortally wounded in line of duty. He graduated from Powell Valley High School, where it's noted that he was the last person to score a touchdown for the Powell Valley High School before that school was closed. He was a member of the Big Stone Gap Fire Department, which followed several generations ahead of him that were also members of that department. And in January 2019, he joined the Big Stone Gap Police Department, where he served faithfully and joyfully until he was killed in the line of duty. He was happily married to Natasha Chandler and a loving father to his daughter, Cameron Elizabeth. The department has received no public comments on this proposal.
Folks?
Mr. Secretary, I move approval.
Second. Mr. Folks moved. I'm sorry, I couldn't see them.
Second.
Mr. Folks moved and Mr. Merrill seconded. Is there further discussion? Please join me by standing if you're approving. Very much. Mr. Prezioso, item number 4, action on the commemorative naming of the Roanoke County, the bridge on Route 760, within the Salem District is the USN AWS 1 James P. Buriak Memorial Bridge.
Yes, sir. The Roanoke County Board of Supervisors enacted a resolution requesting the agency to honor the life of James Buriak for his life service and ultimate sacrifice to the community. They acted on this at the request of Delegate Joseph McNamara to name this bridge Route 760 over the Roanoke River in memory of air crewman and rescue swimmer James Buriak of the United States Navy. He was a Roanoke Valley resident and a Roanoke College alumnus. He was killed when his helicopter crashed in August of 2021 off the coast of San Diego. At this point, VDOT has received no public comments on this proposal.
Dr. Smoot?
Mr. Chairman, I am pleased to move this very fitting tribute. Move approval.
Thank you very much.
Second.
Mr. Laird seconds. So we have a motion and we have a second. Is there further discussion? Please rise if you approve. Very much. Ms. Maxwell, action on periodic regulatory review, item number 5.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this matter relates to the 2023 round of periodic reviews for CTV regulations. As I presented to the board in September, VDOT is recommending and asking the board's approval to retain as is the 3 regulations that are under review. Those regulations are change in limited access control, guidelines for considering requests for restricting through trucks, and finally, the rules, regulations, and rates relating to toll and bridge facilities. If the board approves this action, the regulations will be retained as is, and VDOT will be provided with the authority to take all actions necessary to complete officially this review.
Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Secretary, I move approval.
Ms. Hines moves. Ms. Sellers seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, board.
Item number 6, Mr. Brule. Action on the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority annual reporting for 23.
Good morning, Mr. Secretary,
Morning.
members of the board. Last month, I briefed you on the annual certification process with WMATA. We have completed our review along with the Office of the Attorney General and found WMATA in compliance with all the provisions of the code and are not recommending any withholding of funding based on their reporting that was required to and due to us by June 30th. And so the resolution before you today memorializes that, and I recommend your approval.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Secretary, I move approval.
Ms. Hines moves. Mr. Casperwood seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Item number 7, Ms. Pryor, action on the FY 24 to 29 6-year improvement program transfers.
Good morning. I have
Good
the
morning.
single item for you today, which is the approval of the monthly transfers. I would only draw your attention to one item, which is line 13. Excuse me. Last month, the board was briefed on a transfer of $53 million to support supplemental contingency funds for the HRBT. That is shown on line 13. It comes from I-64 interstate funds, and I recommend your approval of the transfers.
Any comments or questions? Do you have a motion to approve? Mr. Stant moves. Mr. Coleman seconds. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much, Ms. Pryor. Item number 7, item number 8, action on performance policy for locally administered projects. Ms. Deem, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, thank you. Mr. Secretary, members of the board, item number 8 seeks to establish board policy in concert with VDOT's Locality Sustained Performance Program. As we do with annual reporting to this board on the overall construction program as well as the maintenance program, and recognizing the significant contribution of local governments in the administration of transportation projects for the Commonwealth, the policy would require similar annual reporting to this board on the established performance metrics for localities. It further requires that the annual board reporting also include establishment or progress on project development improvement plans that have been created. These plans, as you were briefed last month, are required for localities found not to meet the established performance metrics, and those will be developed in collaboration with the subject locality. We recommend your approval.
You got comments or questions? Question. Mr. Stant.
Ms. Dean, you're following up with what Russ presented last time.
Sir.
Okay. And this particular program only goes to the developmental stage of the construction of a project. It is not expanded to include construction phase.
Mr. Secretary, Mr. Stant, that's correct. And as we discussed last month, we would intend with the program to move forward, as we move forward, to incorporate the delivery portion of the program.
Second question, this is going to be done on an annual basis, but on an ongoing basis, what entree do localities have to view their performance of what you're studying? Is there a dashboard being created, or how is that going to be handled?
Yes, sir. Mr. Secretary, Mr. Stant, as was briefed last month, the program includes a report card for all localities, so that can be seen that will be public-facing. For localities that are identified to be incorporated in the program due to their performance, they will have very detailed results of their performance metrics that will be provided in collaboration with VDOT as well as their local CTB members, so that information will be well available.
On an ongoing basis.
It will be updated periodically, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Secretary?
Merrill.
Yeah, thanks, Ms. Dean. In terms of the policy that's presented at our places, it talks about the remedies that could be imposed on jurisdictions. Who will make those determinations, and will they be communicated, or the criteria will be communicated to the jurisdictions?
Yes, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Merrill. As we discussed last month and as laid out here, there will be collaboration between the local government and VDOT to determine the causes of any deficient performance, and so the plan will be responsive to those causes and suggested remedies. So we would hope that there will be consensus decision-making on what's included in the plan. There is the ability for the district engineer as well as VDOT central office leadership to be involved to take care of any disputes regarding inclusion of items in their performance improvement plan. Does that answer your question?
And I'm assuming it ultimately be VDOT who is the final decision maker.
Yes, sir.
Correct. Yes.
At the end of the day, if we were going to take some difficult action, the commissioner would be making that decision and talking to me about it and talking to the district members about it. That's how it would be done. Ms. Sellers.
See the annual report, but for these counties not meeting standards, they're gonna know that well ahead of the annual report, correct?
Yes, Mr. Secretary, Ms. Sellers, yes. So there is a period of time where we will be working directly with any localities identified to determine if there are any mitigating factors, as we discussed last month, that might be showing up in the data. So they will know well in advance before the annual report. There's about a 3 to 4 month period for that review.
Commissioner Bridge.
Mr. Secretary, Ms. Sellers, I'd say that to everyone on the board that our district engineers and our local assistance divisions have monthly meetings with the localities. So there should be no surprises whatsoever about poor performance and the need to increase or enhance their performance on any of these items. So while we're saying that this is an annual report back to the board, it is an ongoing effort through our district engineering staff to be able to have those one-on-one meetings with localities, whether they're performing admirably or not so much, and there's an opportunity for improvement. So this is not a one-time visit of the locality's performance. I just want to reiterate that.
So can I clarify that and say not just staff to staff, but the concern that I'm hearing from a locality that's not performing well in the Fredericksburg district is the Board of Supervisors is not aware of this. And so staff may be aware of this, but especially as it pertains and could impact smart scale and other money, the boards of supervisors need to know this, or the city council or the town council. They need to be aware of this as well, probably, and that may be a CTB issue. But I guess that's my question is how are we supposed to let the boards know? Because ultimately, if the staff knows and then all of a sudden CTB, we're told, oh, your county's not performing well, and we take it back to our political colleagues, it's not going to be an easy conversation.
Commissioner Bridge.
Mr. Secretary, Ms. Sellers, I would expect the district engineer to be having conversations with the local elected officials as well as their respective board member. And I think, as Dr. Smoot had said in the past in one of our meetings, that by sitting down with the mayor or the city manager and advising of poor performance, there's an opportunity then to educate them on their performance as a whole and turn the tide to be able to at least advise them and make them aware of the situation that they're in. So I think this is an opportunity for more communication than less. So if that is not happening, please let me know, and I'd be more than happy to speak with the district engineer.
And it's a little, into it and saying now it's going to be very public and there's going to be consequences in terms of what they can get funding for. So it's a little different, you know, and coming from that board, the Board of Supervisors, you know, you don't want to learn from the state all of a sudden you don't qualify. Like that's very hard, right? And I see Ms. Hines smiling.
Let me say this, like, if we're talking to the senior staff and they don't tell their board, they got a problem there. It's not, I mean, we need to be talking to them as well. But if their staff isn't telling them what they need to know, then maybe they need to check with their staff.
I see that.
Now, having said that, you will be involved, district members will be involved, and as the commissioner said, that we can certainly talk to anybody. But as a district member, you'll certainly be well aware, and you can have your own opportunities as well to talk to the political folks. But, you know, if I was a staff member and I was having poor performance and I didn't tell the people that hired me, I don't think I'd be a staff member very well, very long, at least in my world. Any other comments or questions? All right, hearing none, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Hines moves, Mr. Merrill seconds, I think it was Mr. Merrill. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you, Ms. Dean. Mr. Coker, Ms. Farmer. Item number 9, action on the approval and authorization to execute a TIFIA direct agreement between VDOT and the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission and the U.S. Department of Transportation. Ms. Farmer. Thank you.
Mr. Secretary, members of the board, the action item allows the commissioner to advance the direct agreement between the three parties, the department, HR TAC, and the U.S. Department of Transportation. I briefed you on this action in your workshop last month. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Are there any comments or questions? Mr.
Motion to
Stan?
approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mr. Coleman seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much, Ms. Farmer.
Thank you.
Mr. Coker, you're going to tell us how the rest of the day's going.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
It's
How are
time to
you?
talk some bids. Welcome.
Thank you
Hope
for
you're
having
well
me.
today.
Mr. Secretary, members of the board, I have 5 projects today that exceed $5 million to present for recommendation for award. First project is Order F88 in the Stanton District. This is a smart-scale road improvement projects in Rockingham County on Route 33. We received 2 bids. The low bid from ALL Construction Incorporated for $12.9 million. This does exceed the range, but I'm recommending approval.
You want to give us a little bit more than it does exceed the range, but you're recommending approval. Can you, like, fill in the gaps there a little bit?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, I certainly can. So this project has been advertised 4 times. Each time we received a single bid, either from ALL Construction or A&J Construction, and they are affiliated companies, so it's essentially the same person. This time around, we received 2 bids. The next bidder was Triton Construction. They were less than 3% higher than ALL. And then based on the receiving multiple bids this time in the tight range of the 2 bids, we believe that the $12.9 million value is the fair market value, and that's why we are recommending award.
This is a fairly remote place. It's really more, it's more West Virginia centric than it is Virginia centric in terms of where it's located. And so the competition is not high there because there's just not a lot of contractors there. We beat this around a bunch, talked about it a bunch. The recommendation is as it is. Are there any comments or questions? Mr. Merrill makes a motion to approve. Is there a second? Mr. Laird seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you, Mr. Coker. Number 2.
Thank you, sir. Next up is Order J98 in the Northern Virginia District. This is a smart-scale project on the Fairfax County Parkway interchange, which is Route 286 in Fairfax County. We received 10 bids. The low bidder from Branch Civil for $48 $1,985,000. This is within range, and we're recommending approval.
I'll move approval, Mr. Secretary. I would mention it's way below the estimated construction costs that we had, so it's a real win with 10 bids.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I would second, Mr. Secretary.
Ms. Hines makes the motion, Mr. Casper seconds. Is there further discussion?
Mr. Secretary,
Yes, sir.
I'd just like to commend Nova District on finding 10 bidders to bid this and turn in a price that was actually below the estimate. Well done.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Number K01.
Next up is order K01. This is another one in the Stanton District. We are adding an auxiliary lane and replacing a bridge on I-81. We received 6 bids. The low bidder, Fairfield Eccles, for $7,729,415. This is within range. I'm recommending approval.
Any questions or comments? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Laird moves. Is there a second? Mr. Lawson seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Number K02.
K02, another project in the Stanton District. This is a bridge overpass and road construction project in Warren County. We received 8 bids. The low bid from Shirley Contracting Company for $11,783,874. This is within range, and we are recommending approval.
Any comments or questions? Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Mr. Merrill moves. Is there a second? Mr. Laird seconds. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much. Number K07.
Last project for today is order K07 in the Hampton Roads District. This is a state of good repair, bridge repairs project over Cypress Creek in Isle of Wight County. We received 5 bids. The low bid from Crofton Construction Services for $8,642,088. This does exceed the range, but we are recommending approval. Little additional information. This is the first time we have advertised this project. This bid is 10% lower than the next highest bidder, and the next 3 bidders above this one were all within 3% of each other. So therefore, we believe this is fair market value, and that's why we're recommending award.
Any comments or questions? We have a motion to approve. Mr. Stant?
Comment, I understand the reason for this exceeding the range is it's a relatively new way of doing carbon fiber, use of carbon fiber for this application. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And Crofton company I know, and it's a great company, so I move approval.
Second.
Mr. Stant made the motion. Mr. Coleman seconded. Is there further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Are there any abstentions? Thank you very much, Mr. Coker.
Thank you, sir.
And so that's the last item on the agenda for the action meeting. Obviously, many of us are heading to the transportation conference that will start this afternoon at 1:30? 1:45. 1:45? You know, we've got a lot of work to do, and there's some homework that we got yesterday that we're working on for the board for December. Preliminarily, it's my view that I think we can get this done in December. We have 2 full days that are scheduled in December, and as you know, our cadence generally does not take that much. And so the thinking is that we take the first full day at least and work through the smart scale discussions, continue to do that. There's some homework we need to provide back to y'all before that. And that's what I'm thinking, but it's not set in stone, so anybody that wants to chat with me offline and talk about whether they think that's a good idea or a bad idea, or they have a better idea, I'm more than willing to listen. As Dr. Smoot said, I think it's important when we do these things on a short fuse like this, if we scheduled another meeting, that we make sure everybody can attend. And so I think we can get it done, and if we give you back what you need and have some a little bit of homework returned to you. I think we can get it done in a full day. But I'm willing to change my mind if that's is the will of the group. So we'll do that offline. And with that, I have nothing else to add. Is there anything anybody else would like to add? Mr. Merrill.
Not about the next month's meeting, just in general.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Two, please understand that I certainly appreciate the tremendous amount of work that goes into preparing these meetings. I think congratulations to the staff and material they produced ahead of time. I would offer, Mr. Secretary, that members of CTB also are busy, and I think it's a reasonable expectation for us to have material Tuesday or Wednesday before the meeting so that there is time for us to view the material and come prepared to engage in dialogue. Second comment is, can we assume that the schedule for 2024 will be the third Tuesdays of the month?
No, but I have that on my desk, and I'll be looking at that in the next day or so to get that out. I think it's probably the same, but I can't speak to that yet. But you'll get the full year in the next couple days. Anyone else? All right, thank you all very much. Thank the staff and everybody that makes this work and happen, and the folks that came to speak to us. We appreciate that. We want the input, and it's very valuable to us. And so have a blessed day. Be safe, and we'll see you at the conference. Meeting's adjourned.